Hey there, folks. Happy Friday to you. Hope you had a great week trading. It was a crazy, crazy week. I'll tell you that. Crazy, crazy week. Crazy for me. But anyway, coming at you with this week's market wrap. So the jobs number did it once again, right? We had so much negativity. We've had so much negativity from a lot of the big boys, a lot of the billionaire guys, right? Gunlock, Carl Icahn, and I mean there's just a bunch of them that were coming out and pottying the market and August, and that's typically not a great month for the markets, and all this stuff. And what happens? We get a decent jobs report, and after we get one lousy day this week where we had a bit of a pullback, the markets turn around and we're now closed at all-time highs, right? I think the NASDAQ is, yeah, right up against all-time highs. So, look, last week I was fairly bullish on the markets. We had a pretty good looking setup. We were consolidating, and I said, look, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to start shorting here until we get some kind of a confirmed move, just because people think the markets are overvalued. And sure enough, that's kind of what happened, right? I mean, if you were emboldened to get short on this day, you're not very happy today. So, next week, heading into next week, the Nasdaq looks like it wants to at least attempt to take out the all-time highs, and I think it'll probably do that. We're well within the Bollinger Band, and it wouldn't be surprising to see us continue that move into next week. We still are in the midst of earnings season. We'll see how earnings continue to play out. But let's take a look at some of this other stuff that happened in the markets. Take a look at the dollar. The dollar, which had a pretty steep decline, actually wound up bouncing over the last few days. Let's take a look at the UUP actually and see what that does. So we had a nice little gap up today. So it was interesting for the pro members of Alpha Wolf Trading, the new site that I've opened. We actually pointed this dollar being out of the lower Bollinger Band on, what day was that? 1, 2, 3, 4 days ago, Tuesday. And that actually turned out to be a pretty good little setup for a snapback play of the following day. So let's take a look at the SMH. Right? Nice consolidation, nice flag pattern. Did pierce below this 8 EMA, but then wound up having a nice little gap. And the only thing that I would say is that, the volume is just not really there, right? It's just not really convincing, kind of a lower volume, but it's still nice to see it break over that trend line. And look where it's coming up into all-time highs, right? We're getting close to testing that $65 holla for a potential roll. I think you want to keep an eye on the SMH. Let's take a look at the IBB, which was impressive. We didn't get our $300 holler. Maybe we did. Hold on a second here. No, we got really, 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 really close. We did not get the $300 holler, but we are still well within the Bollinger Band. Nice controlled move higher. It looks as though maybe we could consolidate here at the $300 mark, and then if we look to take out 300, it could get a little exciting there for the IBB. But you have some merger and acquisition chatter happening in the space. BMY and Merck had a pop. BMY got pulled back a little bit. Hearing some chatter about Biogen and Gilead, and a lot of stuff going on in the space. The chart looks pretty good. It is overbought. I mean, look, it is overbought. However, things can stay overbought, and this is a pretty impressive move in the IBB. It would be very healthy for us to consolidate here before taking out the $300 roll, or even pull back to this 285 area, test the 200-day moving average, find some support there, and then bounce. That would be healthy as well. Let's take a look at the IWM. Unbelievable, right? Nice move in the small caps. I mean, we've got, again, we still have some of these low floater names, really low floater names that, garbage stocks that are going on these incredibly insane runs. Those you want to be really, really careful with. Just trade with your lottery money, right? The money that you would go down and buy some lottery tickets with. That's what you look to play with. Some of these really tiny floaters that have 21,000 shares in the float. Just did a 1 for 135 reverse split. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. You'll figure it out pretty quick. But thing went from I think $10 to $70 in 2 days. Crazy stuff. There are better opportunities, better companies out there that have better balance sheets and are actually really real companies that have just been beaten up. And those are the kind of plays that you want to look for. But IWM, closed. What do? We closed right at the high of the day, really close to the high of the day, well within the Bollinger Band after a very nice consolidation, coming up into an area of price resistance at 122, 123. We take that out. I think we go higher. Looking really, really good for the IWM. Really positive action this week. So we've talked about LABU and LABD. If the IBB does roll over, maybe you get a short-term day trade in LABD. And if, after consolidating here, we break out, you could get a nice little pop out of LABU to the long side if you don't want to really play anything specifically within the biotech space. Let's take a look at what happened in gold and silver. Gold pulled back pretty hard today. So, look, it's the exact opposite of what the dollar did, right? So if the dollar climbs, you're going to look for weakness in gold, in silver, and in the miners, right? Let's see what JNUG and Nugget did. So JNUG pulled back fairly significantly. And, look, it was coming up into this area of resistance here. It actually did wind up making a higher high. And then we made a lower high here. Now we're making a lower low. Getting a little interesting here on this JNUG, right? Getting a little choppy, a little gapping, and pretty hard to trade this one. So let's just take a look. The flip side of that JNUG is JDST, right? And it kind of looks the opposite. Had a little gap up. But, if JNUG really, really rolls over, keep an eye on Dust and JDust. Those could present potential day trading opportunities. Let's take a look and see what happened with silver real quick. Pulled back pretty hard, another gap, and that one looks like it closed right at the low of the day, right? So could see some more weakness in silver. Be careful in the miners. Let's take a look at the miners and minerals. But this actually looks pretty good here. This XME, that's got a nice looking little flag pattern on there. That's not too shabby at all. Maybe it wants to consolidate a bit more, maybe drift its way back towards this trend line, but still pretty nice looking trend on XME. Let's take a look at retail. I had that big drop and then had a nice reversal candle coming right back up into the trend line. Actually tried to take it out today, was unable to close above it, but pretty healthy action in the retail space. Let's take a look at transportation. Came down, tested the 50-day EMA, bounced right off of there, and coming back up into potential price resistance at 47. Actually pretty decent looking action in the transportation sector. Again, though, so that's the XTN. Not a lot of volume there. Let's go to a better one to look at. Let's go look at the IYT. Much more liquid, a lot more volume here. 388,000 shares. Coming up into this 143 area, looks like there'll be some resistance there, but not a bad little recovery bounce off the 200-day moving average, right? The IYT. That would be a good thing if the transportation sector could keep moving in that direction, moving up, right? Let's take a look at financials, which were pretty darn impressive today. Broke out over this long-term trend line after a nice bit of consolidation, testing the $24 holla. Maybe we get a follow-through on the XLF next week on the financials, but pretty impressive that it wound up taking out that trend line today. So I think you want to, financials are somewhat challenging. They're a little difficult to take for just day trades. You may want to look at taking financials more for a swing. A lot of them are very thick stocks, thick floats, so hard to get a really good move out of some financials, but definitely worth taking a look at the sector, keeping an eye on it. Industrials, let's take a look at industrials. Another one that's just trying to break over the trend line. Not a significant amount of volume, but it is trying to take out the trend line. Nice little flag pattern on the daily. It looks good. It actually looks as though it wants to go higher. Let's take a look at energy, which, look, this week was very interesting. We got a bearish inventory number, petroleum inventory number, and we started to see a pretty good pullback in oil, and we hit this. We wound up hitting, coming very close to a line of potential price support, and bounced off of there. Had a nice reversal candle. We got some follow through the following day. Now we've broken over this trend line here. Broken over and closed over some shorter term moving averages, and that was pretty darn impressive. We had a rig count number that came out today that was also higher. We had a higher rig count. Could have been interpreted as bad for oil, energy names, but actually energy names did fairly well today. Now that could have been just because of the fact that there was a good employment number and all indexes were making a nice move. I don't know. We'll see. We'll get more clarity, I'm sure, next week. But let's take a look and see what actually oil did. And it's had a nice 3-day bounce. Now look at this. We're coming right up into this potential price resistance. Actually, let's call that the $10 holla, right? We got a potential round number roll. Could act as resistance at 10 bucks. We've got this short-term trend line that we're coming up into that could also act as resistance. So maybe we get a pullback in oil. If we do, that could potentially put some pressure on the energy names. But there is some really, we'll see. We'll see if oil can continue to push through and stay above $40 a barrel. That's the big deal, right? We want to stay above $40 a barrel. And if we can do that, I think that would be good for the energy space. So worth keeping an eye on that. What else we got going on? We talked about that. Consumer discretionary had a bit of a pullback, right? Pulled back basically to almost the $80 holla, bounced right off of there, coming back up into potential resistance at around $82. We'll see what the consumer discretionary does next week if we get some follow through, but still pretty constructive looking action. Exploration and production, nice little move, right? Broke over the trend line. And I think there's one more that I want to talk about here. Healthcare, consolidating after a nice little pop. It's coming up into a pretty significant area of potential price resistance right around 76 bucks, so it's not really a big shock that we're consolidating here, looking to build some energy before we take out that $76 area. Kind of looks real similar to the IBB. So look, still very, very good looking charts. I mean, no reason to try and be a hero and short this stuff right now until you get a confirmed breakdown or rollover. Don't listen to all the noise and the chatter and all the billionaires that are saying that the the market is overvalued. The market can stay overvalued for longer than you can stay solvent as a short. So you've got to be very, very careful. One other thing I wanted to point out is we talked about the low floaters, right? Shippers had an interesting 3-day bounce. A lot of those names are garbage names, tremendous amount of debt. Be very, very careful. We had, I think it was Ship that actually ran today and then wound up coming out and doing an offering, I think around $4 and change. Ship did. Eagle did a reverse split. I mean, the big thing that's been running is these reverse splits. Eagle, I think, did a reverse split. Dry Ships did a reverse split. So, very small floats, 22 million shares in the float. It doesn't take a whole lot to move these things when they do those reverse splits. But these companies have a tremendous amount of debt and are not really good companies, at least not right now. So just be very, very careful out there with these reverse split and low floater plays. Doesn't mean you can't take them for day trades. Just recognize them for what they are, day trades. The other thing to take a look at too is Brazil. It is on fire. You got the Olympics starting. Look, it just consolidated really nicely, broke out the EWZ. It is piercing the upper Bollinger Band. Maybe it pulls back a little bit and consolidates right around the $33 holla. But worth keeping an eye on the EWZ. And I think there's another one too. Boy. Where's it at? Okay, I don't know where the other one is, but there's a couple of Brazil ETFs that you could keep an eye on. There could be some more follow through there now that the Olympics are getting started. So that's it. That is my market wrap for this week. Lots of good stuff going on out there. We'll see if we can get some follow through, continuation of this move, take out some new all-time highs. If that happens, you'll be seeing headlines every day, right? You'll be hearing about it on CNBC and Bloomberg every 5 minutes. We'll be talking about, the Dow just, the S&P 500 is now trading at an all-time high, and you'll hear it about the NASDAQ. So, that tends to, that kind of stuff tends to get people buying more and more, right? They all feel good. Doesn't mean that something could happen over the weekend and, poo-poo all of this, right? Anything could happen. You have to keep your mind open to the possibility. But for right now, it looks pretty darn good for the bulls, okay? Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a fantastic one. If you like what I do here, if you like what I'm doing with this market wrap video, I do this every single day, Monday through Thursday, for the pro members of alphawolftrading.com. And if you like it, check it out. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah, Ticker TV, live Sunday, 8 a.m. Vegas time. If you have some stocks on your radar that you'd like me to check out, send them, either email them to me, tweet them to me, and I will do my best to get them on the stocks to watch list for next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a safe one, and more importantly, have fun. Okay.